He survived, but his friend did not.
I kept telling them, my friend, where's my friend?
Injured in last week's Rockslide, a BC man says he owes his life to his hiking companion. A Calgary woman out walking her dog is the victim of a Bobcat attack. And voters hit the polls in 3 provincial by-elections.
CTV Calgary, local breaking news with Camilla DiGiuseppe.
Good afternoon. He survived last Thursday's deadly rockslide in Banff National Park, but his friend did not. A man visiting from BC says if it wasn't for his friend telling him to run, he wouldn't be alive today. Alicia Philberg joins us now. And Alicia, Khaled El-Gamal is still recovering at Foothills and spoke to us from his hospital bed.
Camilla El-Gamal was one of 2 hikers airlifted from Bow Glacier Falls. He has a fractured pelvis and shoulder blade and cuts and bruises from the rocks. Now, this is one of the last pictures Khaled took with Hamza Benalal. It was taken the day before the rockslide that killed the 33-year-old and a 70-year-old woman from Calgary. Now, the 2 men immigrated to Canada in 2022 to get their MBAs and were roommates in Surrey. They had been vacationing in Calgary and Banff for a week, and on the suggestion of a hotel guest, decided to visit Bow Lake that fateful day. Khaled says they reached the falls and took photos, including this one, seconds before part of the mountain came crashing down. He says he just froze, but then heard his friend yell for him to run, and says he is recovering in hospital thanks to his friend.
He still tried to save me. He did scream out loud, telling me to run, and that's kind of like what helped me get back on to my senses and start running, because I was like in a shock, and I thought it seemed like a movie scene, just seeing rocks coming from the sky there.
Khaled says he's thankful to the other hikers at the scene and rescue crews who helped him. He says Hamza's brother is flying in from Morocco to try and repatriate his body, but that it's going to cost thousands of dollars.
All right, Alicia, thank you so much. And police are searching for a suspect after a stabbing this afternoon. Police believe it happened in a parkade near City Hall just after noon. The victim approached security guards and told them he had been stabbed. The man was taken to hospital in stable condition. Police say the suspect was a white man wearing a mask and a gray and black hoodie. Police believe speed and impairment are factors in this crash in the southeast on Saturday afternoon. Just after 3, the pickup truck driver lost control while taking the 88th Street exit off Stony Trail. The vehicle ended up on a pedestrian pathway before it hit a power pole. Police say no pedestrians were injured. The 31-year-old driver ended up with life-threatening injuries. Charges are pending. A Sundre woman facing several sexual misconduct charges involving 4 teenage boys appeared briefly in a Calgary courtroom today. But instead of the first day of a preliminary hearing, 34-year-old Alexa Suter signed a peace bond to stay away from the complainants and 1 witness in the case. In exchange, 3 charges of making sexually explicit material available to a child were withdrawn. She still faces charges of sexual interference, sexual assault, and 1 remaining count of making sexually explicit material available to a child. After Suter was charged in 2024, parents in Sundre told CTV News the boys were all under the age of 16. She is due back in court August 15th at a Court of King's Bench set date for trial. And Calgary police are asking for help identifying this man. He's accused of inappropriately touching an 11-year-old girl. It happened on a Calgary transit bus last month. And police believe the suspect is a frequent user of the transit system. Anyone who recognizes him is asked to contact police. A Calgary woman was injured after being attacked by a bobcat while walking her dog this morning. Jordan Canagan is in the community of Parkland. Jordan, lay out what happened for us.
Well, Camilla, it was just after 10 o'clock this morning when a man and woman were walking their dog just on that sidewalk right behind me, and a witness tells me a bobcat sprinted across the street and jumped onto the woman and attacked her. Calgary police, paramedics, and fish and wildlife officers all responding. Cages were set up as officers tracked the bobcat to underneath a deck right through that alley behind me. Neighbors say the animal has 4 kittens and has been living under the deck deck for weeks now. Fish and Wildlife left without capturing the animals earlier on today. Even though the bobcats can be seen frequently crossing the street, the mother is still out hunting for food as well. The animals are easy to spot. They're not really hiding, some of them even casually walking behind us during an interview with that wildlife official. Neighbors say the woman went to hospital with cuts and scratches.
Opened the door to, and then the bobcat ran. As soon as I opened the door, he ran towards the alley, and he attacked Dan and his wife, attacked the woman. She went down with her, and she was screaming. I could hear her screaming. I saw the attack.
Now, neighbors are concerned here that the bobcats weren't relocated, especially now that someone has been injured in this. Now, Fish and Wildlife officers say they are still monitoring the situation. Actually, an officer just left here a few moments ago. They may return with a more permanent solution. For now, though, they are just hoping that the bobcat and the kittens will relocate on their own. Camilla?
All right, Jordan, thank you. A boating advisory remains in effect for the Bow River. The fire department says because of Saturday's rain, the Bow River has exceeded the recommended safe flow rates. That means no boating or other water activities during this time. Conditions near the riverbanks also remain dangerous, and pathways near the river may still be flooded. The fire department says the water is cold and the higher flow rate has increased turbidity, making hazards hard to see. Let's bring in our Danielle Savoni with our first look at the weather. That was a lot of rain. And
yeah.
I mean, we were talking about it for a while.
We were talking about it for a while. Let's do a little recap, and I'm going to focus on areas that saw the most amount of rainfall and the strongest winds. So this is the most intense part of the system. All right, rainfall totals. And again, when you see that little star there, that's a third-party report, so not official report from Environment and Climate Change Canada. But Kananaskis Valley, over 200 millimeters. Areas, a couple communities just south of Oyen, over 130 millimeters. When you look at areas just south of High River, up to 120 millimeters. So over 100 millimeters in many communities. And when you combine this with wind gusts, it was a tricky, especially on Saturday, it was a tricky one, of course. And localized flooding was definitely an issue. Bassano, 81 kilometers per hour, Milk River 87, Traverse 86, so well into the 80s in many areas. It was a day for sure, but a lot of farmers are very happy because they've got a lot of rain that was much needed. All right, 14 degrees is the temperature in Calgary right now. The wind's relatively calm at the moment, but they'll likely pick up. Your 24-hour forecast is brought to you by 5th Avenue Volkswagen. Find more than what you're expecting at 5th Avenue Volkswagen. We have the potential for showers and thunderstorm activity right up until about 1 a.m. Fog patches developing overnight, and in the afternoon, chances of thunderstorms once again non-severe, but it will be warmer with a high of 21.
Thank you very much, Danielle. Voters are heading to the polls in 3 provincial by-elections today. The races are in Edmonton, Ellerslie, Edmonton, Strathcona, and Old Didsbury, Three Hills. Former Calgary mayor and now NDP leader Naheed Nenshi is trying to win a seat in Edmonton, Strathcona, Rachel Notley's former riding. Meanwhile, in Old Didsbury, Three Hills, the separatist-focused Republican Party of Alberta is aiming to capitalize on discontent with Ottawa.
So many things that are really relevant right now, like education, healthcare. I think that's at the tip of a lot of our brains, and yeah.
This separation of Alberta.
Mind sharing your thoughts?
Nope.
The polls close at 8 o'clock tonight. Elections Alberta is expected to release the unofficial results later this evening, with the official results being published July 3rd. The crisis in the Middle East escalating and changing by the second. Calgary Iranians watching closely, including the Americans' involvement and word on a temporary ceasefire. And it's almost like what you would see in a sci-fi flick. Calgary researchers using one infection to fight off another. The U.S. president claims Israel and Iran have agreed to a 12-hour ceasefire, but neither side has confirmed that. It follows a retaliation today after the U.S. bombed several of Iran's nuclear sites this weekend. Iranian missiles lit up the night sky over a U.S. base in Qatar, but air defenses intercepted and no casualties have been reported. Meanwhile, the Canadian government is helping transport Canadians in Iran and Israel to safety. Ottawa says it will continue to facilitate travel out of the region. In Calgary, Parveez Sichani is watching the news daily for updates on the regime. He fled 42 years ago. He says family and friends back in his home country aren't worried about the attacks on Iran. That's because they don't appear to be targeting civilians. He says many consider this a liberation war and believe the attacks are necessary to bring an end to the oppressive regime in Iran.
So everybody is concerned about what is happening, but what is happening is nothing new to Iranians, because for the past 46 years, this regime has been very, very brutal. Killing has been going on, continuously.
Canadian Muslims for Peace and Justice say the attacks by both Israel and the U.S. undermine the United Nations Charter and international laws and are calling for a ceasefire. 2 Alberta companies will be helping to improve Canada's Arctic defense. Technologics in Red Deer is working with Actco Frontech to create a new type of radar system. Radar systems are typically limited by the curvature of the Earth. The new system will send a beam into the ionosphere to bounce it back and giving it a much larger range. The first of 3 installations of the experimental radar will be in the Northwest Territories. The project is scheduled to be complete by 2027. Let's bring in Danielle once again. You want to talk about all the rain amounts. I mean, Calgary got a fair amount too.
Yeah, so we weren't at that excessive amount, but we certainly got a lot for the city just in about a day and a half. 70 millimeters of rain here in Calgary. Yeah. Got a little windy, certainly got chilly as well. And when you check out your Skywatch weather camera, you can see off to the left of this shot, there are some cells dancing around us. We have the potential of getting isolated showers and thunderstorms, non-severe, for the next few hours, really up until 1 a.m. We have that possibility in Calgary. 13 degrees is the temperature right now, so it's warmer in Banff compared to Calgary. Normal daytime high is well above 20, so we're certainly below normal for today. Our high was 17. Lethbridge is at 20 right now, Milk River as well, and just above 20, Brooks, Medicine Hat, and Drumheller as well. Looking closer to home, Bragg Creek 13, Cochrane 11, 13 in Irricana, and 14 in Strathmore. Get your daily dose of greens at Serenity Golf Club, just 20 minutes east of Calgary. All right, so in the south end, southern Alberta in general, we're looking at non-severe thunderstorms dancing around right now. But off into Saskatchewan is a different story because rotation is possible there. And there's even just south of Saskatoon right now, tornado warnings in place. So while they're seeing more severe storms on the Saskatchewan side, we're getting storms, maybe a little bit of small hail associated with some of these, but most of these are dying out pretty quick. They come with lightning, they come with a decent downpour, but they're non-severe in southern Alberta. For Calgary, we've had one skirt us earlier, and we have the potential again up until about 1 a.m. of seeing that activity. I do want to zoom in just to one area because of one cell I'm looking at. Again, it's still non-severe, so it doesn't have those excessive wind gusts or larger size hail, but just tracking just south of Hussar, and potentially Bassano might see a little bit of this as well. Smaller size hail associated with this one and big downpour. Okay, so up until 1 a.m. is our possibility in Calgary of that activity, a little longer, closer to that southeast corner. But for tomorrow morning, this is a look at tomorrow morning. Sunshine, so a nice start to the day. We get into the potential of that instability once again, especially up the QE2, Calgary, and just to about Claresholm and off to the east. So Brooks may even see that activity as well. And then late day Wednesday, same idea. We're not looking at a warm week, but it will be warmer than it has been on the weekend. Temperatures in those lower 20s. And we are looking at that potential for instability, isolated showers, pop-up thunderstorms, windy at times. That's really the story for tomorrow, and it's really the story for much of this week, as you can see here. Thursday looks like the more stable one, I guess, with a smaller chance of any sort of shower or thunderstorm activity.
Researchers at the University of Calgary are helping patients with chronic infections by giving them a new infection. Boyd English is the first patient in Western Canada to have an infection treated with bacteriophages. It's a type of virus that attacks bacteria and destroys it while leaving healthy tissue unharmed. He suffers from a recurring infection around his hip replacement, which has caused severe pain. Surgeries and antibiotics were ineffective, but the phages seem to be working.
Antibiotics that used to be effective are no longer effective. So we need to look for other strategies. That can be a new antibiotic, but we're exploring now different therapies such as phage therapy as an alternative strategy, and it can actually be personalized to the patient.
Another patient in Ottawa underwent phage therapy too. The Mayo Clinic in Minnesota is conducting a clinical trial on the treatment. Calgary and Southern Alberta getting another economic boost. Thousands of Rotarians descend for their annual convention, focusing on how to help solve issues big or small. Markets to open up the week. Joining me is Faisal Karmali, Portfolio Manager with the Pawwich Karmali Advisory Group. With all this tension in the Middle East, Faisal, how did the markets do?
Yeah, when you look at every subcategory in the Toronto Stock Exchange, all were positive with the exception to energy. So people are really focusing on what's happening in the conflict and how it's going to impact not only companies, but the economy as a whole.
Okay, CRA service complaints on the rise. What's happening here?
So what's been happening over the years is many Canadians have experienced the long waiting periods to get someone to answer the phone. And so back in October, CRA thought, let's open up some chat bots so people can go online and have a chat function. Well, the number of employees answering phones is 4,000. The number of people answering these chat bots is 100. And so that's a big difference. And there's still a big problem here. Service complaints are still on the rise as these chat bots are not even responding in time. And in fact, they don't even tell you how long you have to wait to get an agent to respond to your request. So hopefully they can get this figured out, as many Canadians have questions not only about their tax returns, but basic information they're looking for when it comes to the CRA site.
And can we touch on one quick thing, the markets reacting to the Middle East crisis?
Yeah, so what we saw today was more of a relief rally when it came to the Qatar issue. The key thing here is that the markets are still very nervous about what's going on, but keep an eye out on the price of the commodity of oil. Seeing it drop as much as it did today, about 5%, kind of makes people think that, oh, we're all okay, but I'm not convinced yet until we have some sort of agreement that there's not going to be any more missiles going up in the air.
All right, Faisal, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
The Rotary International Convention is underway in Calgary. Approximately 15,000 Rotarians are attending the event from over 140 countries. In Calgary's Rotary District, spanning from southern Alberta to western Saskatchewan, there are 45 clubs. A main reason for the convention is for members to brainstorm solutions to issues the club looks to address.
Well, of course, the world is now in a very, very difficult time, and so we're really about uniting people, bringing people at the grassroots level together to solve problems, whether it be a problem in their community, whether it be a regional problem, or a global problem such as eradicating polio.
The event is a big draw to Calgary's tourism sector. Organizers estimate $81 million will be pumped into the local economy. The second person killed in the Bow Glacier Falls rockslide has been identified. Here's Ian White with a look ahead to CTV News at 6.
Camilla, 33-year-old Hamza Ben Hilal from Surrey, BC, died in last week's tragedy while hiking with his friend and roommate. The friend survived and was airlifted to the Foothills Hospital, where he spoke to us today. Coming up at 6, we'll share more details from that conversation. Also ahead, a woman is attacked by a bobcat in southeast Calgary. We'll have the latest on Fish and Wildlife's efforts to round up the cat and her kittens. See you at 6. Camilla?
Ian, thank you. Students at NAIT in Edmonton unveiled a special project that's fit for royalty. This 1951 convertible was one of 60 the Canadian government purchased for Princess Elizabeth during a trip to Canada before she became queen. On Saturday, the students showed off the restoration of the car to its owner, Ron Lyons. Lyons has worked with NAIT to restore vehicles for about 20 years. He says he is impressed by the students' latest efforts.
looks spectacular, right? Like the flying bird and with the gold and the silver. I think the kids and the program here did an amazing job restoring it.
It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. You don't meet a lot of people who can say they worked on a car the Queen sat in.
Lyons plans to drive it to car shows this summer. It will then go on display at his Golf Country Club's car museum. Nice wheels there. All right, it is cloudy, 13 degrees out there, but lots of green, and the rivers, well, they are running a little higher, a little faster right now. Danielle has more details after the break. Alberta Wildfire says cooler weather and rain is helping tame the wildfire situation. But many of the fires burning across the province are big and burning underground. That means that this weekend's rain was enough to buy time, but not to put them out. Officials say during a long weekend, there is usually a spike in human-caused fires, so it's asking everyone to be careful heading into the Canada Day holiday. There are currently 54 wildfires burning in Alberta. 19 are classified as out of control. Let's bring in Danielle once again. The rain helping a lot of situations.
Absolutely helpful, yeah. In many cases, localized flooding though in some areas, but you know, we needed this for sure. 13 degrees is the current temperature. Today's high was 17, so we're certainly below normal. Normal is 21 for this time of year. We're going to get back into those 20s though and be around normal for the next few days. As you can see here, a little windy at times, and there is the chance of some late day thunderstorms for Tuesday, Wednesday. To be honest, for most days this week, we may get a break from that risk by the time we get into Thursday.
An after-hours fashion show took center stage at South Centre for Indigenous History Month. Authentically Indigenous celebrates local Indigenous creativity, arts, and culture through markets, events, workshops, and cultural education. This year's campaign invited Calgarians to experience the work of Indigenous designers and artisans while fostering a deeper understanding of Indigenous culture.
I think it's really important to see how we are today. I mean, a lot of the times, you know, fashion is seen as something that Indigenous people aren't really a part of, and we're kind of breaking into that scene and showing we're so much more than what we used to be. We're more than what a Western showcased us as, and we're kind of updated and new, and we show contemporary things, and we've changed so much with the times as well.
The work of 10 Indigenous designers will be on display at South Centre for the remainder of June. And this event and many more happening throughout the month to celebrate Indigenous culture. That's it for us. Thanks for joining us. Now here's the early edition of the CTV National News.